10th of March 1987. Nearly 25 years since the son of Isabel, brother to Alistair, Daniel Morgan, was brutally killed with 5 blows of an axe to his head. The last blow probably struck when he was on the ground because the hilt was embedded in his skull. Alistair is representing his family here today to hear the minister's response to the family's call for a judge-led inquiry into the 5 failed investigations into Daniel's murder. All they ask is justice for Daniel. 5 failed inquiries have cost the taxpayer nearly £30 million. It's my belief that had the murder been adequately investigated a quarter of a century ago, Daniel's killer would have been brought to justice. John Yates said, "This case is one of the most deplorable episodes in the entire history of the Metropolitan Police Service. Daniel's family have been treated disgracefully." Now, I know the Minister is not going to be able to grant a judge-led inquiry today, or at least I suspect he isn't. However, I hope he will at least keep an open mind that a judge-led inquiry, as the Home Secretary has not yet made the decision as to whether to grant a judge-led inquiry, and Emily Thornberry has also been campaigning for that for her constituents. I ask him for one thing, though. Please agree to ask a number of searching questions to his officials and the Metropolitan Police before he and the Home Secretary make their decision. I'll put these to him at the end of my contribution. I can tell the Minister, though, that the family of Daniel categorically do not want another investigation by the Metropolitan Police. They've lost trust. Before I turn to raising specific questions for the Minister, I want to run through the events that have led to the 5 failed investigations. Of the 5, the first was severely compromised by police corruption. For 20 years, the Metropolitan Police failed to admit this, despite the repeated pleas of the Morgan family. Indeed, it was not until 2005 when the Met's then Commissioner, Sir Ian Blair, admitted that the first inquiry involving Detective Superintendent Sidney Fillery had been compromised. If this admission had come earlier, the subsequent inquiries may also not have failed. As part of the first investigation, it's now known that DS Sid Fillery, a member of the original murder squad, failed to reveal to his superiors that he had very close links with Jonathan Rees when he became part of the inquiry. I'm told that Fillery took a statement from Rees, but it did not include details that both he and Rees had met with Daniel at the Golden Lion pub the night before the murder. Nor did it include details of a robbery at Belmont car auctions a year earlier. Had these details emerged at the time, it would have revealed that these incidents brought both men into direct conflict with Daniel. The Belmont auction story was significant because Daniel and Jonathan Rees had previously agreed they would not deal with cash-in-transit work. Daniel is known to have been angry when Jonathan Rees took on the job of looking after the takings from the auctions, saying it would backfire on them. Rees, who was contracted to carry cash to the bank after a series of auctions, alleged that the bank night safe had been interfered with and so took the money to his home in March 1986. He alleges that he was attacked outside his house by 2 masked men who took the £18,000 from him. Belmont Auctions then sued Southern Investigations. This resulted in Daniel having to raise £10,000 very quickly for security to the court. We know that 2 days before the murder, Daniel told a witness, Brian Crush, that he believed Rees and Fillery had set up the robbery and taken the money themselves. Daniel also told a witness he was dealing with police corruption and that he did not know who in the Met he could trust with the information. It's important that the Minister understands at the outset why the omission of the meeting at the Golden Lion pub and the auction robbery was so critical to the first investigation being compromised. My sources told me the omissions in the statement gathered by Fillery initially prevented attention being drawn towards Jonathan Rees. and indeed Fillory himself. Alistair Morgan, Daniel's brother, has also told me how he raised his own suspicions with Fillory about Rees's possible involvement with the Belmont Auctions robbery as a possible motive for the murder. Alistair had not known that Fillory had actually recommended Rees to the auction company at the time. Alistair now believes it was a mistake to trust Fillory. He tells me, for example, his information to Fillory later led to a phone call to his sister-in-law in which the family were told directly by Fillory that Alistair should get out of London as he was interfering with the investigation. When Fillory was removed from the team, the investigation quickly focused on the Met Police, who the Met Police believed to be responsible, and they arrested Fillory, Rees, the two Vian brothers, and two other police officers who were closely associated with Southern investigations. However, no charges were brought, and all 6 men were released. At the inquest in April 1998, Kevin Lennon, who worked as a bookkeeper at Southern Investigations, gave evidence that implicated Rees in Daniel's murder. The Guardian newspaper reported that in evidence to the hearing, Kevin Lennon said Rees wanted Morgan dead after a row. Lennon said, John Rees explained that when or after Daniel Morgan had been killed, he would be replaced by a friend of his who was a serving policeman, Detective Sergeant Sid Fillory. Lennon also told the inquest that Rees said to him, I've got the perfect solution for Daniel's murder. My mates at Catford Nick are going to arrange it. Lennon added, he, Rees, went on to explain to me that if they didn't do it themselves, the police would arrange for some person over whom they had some criminal charge pending to carry out Daniel's murder. In the weeks before his murder, Daniel Morgan had repeatedly expressed concerns over corrupt police officers in South London. The Morgan family also believed Daniel was about to reveal evidence of corruption. In the aftermath of the murder, and just as predicted by the evidence of Kevin Lennon 7 months before at the inquest in 1988, Fillory took early retirement with an enhanced sick pension. Alistair Morgan has also told me now how, at the inquest, members of the Metropolitan Police disputed the fact he had ever spoken with Fillory directly as part of the investigation. He believes they were trying to cover up. Investigation 2, an outside inquiry, ordered by the then Commissioner Sir Peter Imbert following a complaint by the family, was carried out by Hampshire Police, but made no attempt whatsoever to address the allegations that Fillory had tried to get Daniel's brother Alistair out of London after he'd pointed to Rees as a prime suspect to the murder. Had the inquiry done so, it may have found that what Alistair was trying to say tallied with the allegations previously made by Kevin Lennon at the inquest in 1988. The inquiry's terms of reference were to investigate all aspects of police involvement arising from the death of Daniel Morgan. Unknown to Daniel's family, the remit of this inquiry was secretly changed at a high-level meeting at Scotland Yard in December 1988. The family further believe that the second investigation did not address the statements made at the inquest by serving police officers in which they denied that Alistair Morgan had ever raised his suspicions about Rees with Fillory directly as part of investigation number 1. In addition, Mr. Morgan is frustrated that he offered to provide Hampshire Police with a statement after an initial interview, but they refused him. Indeed, no further statement was taken until the year 2000. The inquiry later reported to the Police Complaints Authority that there was no evidence whatsoever of police involvement in the murder, and the original inquiry had been good. Understandably, the Morgan family kept up their campaign for justice. In November 1997, they met Sir Paul Condon, who promised to review the case. Nothing happened. That is until late 1998, when under the leadership of John Stevens and Roy Clark, the Met launched a third investigation into the murder. This was done without the knowledge of the Morgan family and in secrecy. Not including the family was a mistake, and the secrecy of the inquiry has deeply troubled them. The secrecy today is still a major issue for the family with the Met. I hope the Minister must ask why the family were not kept informed. As part of Investigation 3, a covert bug was placed in the Office of Southern Investigations. I will return to this later. Yet Investigation 3 arguably missed its chance to use trigger events to gather further evidence on the murder. After Rees went to jail, the Morgan family had another meeting with Roy Clark. Clark initially said they would do another investigation, which the family ruled out, as they wanted disclosure of the Hampshire report first. First Clark and then Andy Hayman refused to disclose the report to the family. It was not until the family were forced to go to the High Court that they succeeded. The Morgans should not have had to do that.